The Kaddish is one of the most popular prayers in the service. It is one of the most beautiful, deeply significant, spiritually moving prayers in the Jewish liturgy. There are 6 forms of variations of the Kaddish. We are going to discuss specifically the mourner's Kaddish that is recited for 11 months after the passing of a parent and at least for 30 days after the passing of a spouse, sibling, or a child, although many recite it for 11 months for those people also. The text of the Kaddish is in Aramaic. That was the vernacular of the Jewish people at the time of its composition, the Talmudic times. That itself shows the importance of understanding the meaning of the Kaddish while reciting it. It's intriguing that in the words of the Kaddish, there is no mention of death, loss, or mourning. There's no mention of the name of the deceased. And there are a number of reasons. And this will also explain why we say Kaddish after the departed. The words of the Kaddish basically affirm and acknowledge God's justice and greatness. The main words of the Kaddish is, "May God's great name be blessed for eternity." Our tradition teaches us that when a soul ascends to heaven, they are judged according to the deeds they did in this world. Every single accomplishment, whether positive or negative, is carefully considered. There is also a cleansing process that the soul needs to go through to be able to enter into paradise, Gan Eden. The biggest legacy that a person can leave behind is a family that is inspired to serve God and do good deeds. So therefore, when a family member in the midst of their grieving recites the Kaddish, which means to affirm God's justice and greatness, precisely it is this type of statement that benefits the soul during this process of cleansing. Our tradition tells us that a wicked person is judged for 12 months. That's why we stop saying Kaddish for a parent after 11 months, because we do not consider our parents wicked. And in many cases, this process of cleansing is even much shorter than 11 months. Another explanation is that the Kaddish is actually directed to the living. We petition in the Kaddish for long life and all the blessings that we wish for in life. We also ask for the era of Mashiach, where there will be eternal life. Additionally, on a mystical note, there are 10 praises of God in the Kaddish that relate to the 10 utterances of creation. That is directed to the living to remind them that they still need to play a role to perfect creation. A third explanation is that every single person reveals a particular expression of God's godliness in this world. So when he or she passes away, somewhat of God's radiance is diminished in the world. So by reciting Kaddish, affirming God's greatness and glory, we are restoring that glory of God that has been diminished by the passing of that person. There are other fringe benefits in saying Kaddish. There is a deeply psychological benefit because many mourners find it very hard to move on, to go out in public and to join others. Kaddish forces them to go out in public and join others, at the same time not being distracted from their loved one because they're going out to say Kaddish. So you have the balance of both. You're moving forward while carrying your loved one with you. It can also provide much needed structure and routine to a life upended by the loss. But it's also an opportunity for the mourner to receive community sympathy and to help the mourner channel their bitterness into positive action. By attending shul and the services regularly, much longer than the Shiva period. The community attention given to the mourner, especially when they answer Amen to their Kaddish in their presence, can provide somewhat of a substitute to the attention that they received by their parent, which is no longer available to them. Now, may women recite Kaddish? Well, this question wasn't an issue for many centuries because Kaddish is said in a minyan, in a quorum of 10 men. Women were exempt from praying in a quorum, and many women never went to shul. So this question wasn't a burning issue. However, in the 17th century, this question did rise regarding a private minyan in a home, and the daughter was asked to say Kaddish. This question was brought to one of the leading authorities of the time, and he said that there's no legal prohibition for a woman to say Kaddish, and a woman who says Kaddish benefits the soul of the departed, but he still opposed it because it didn't conform to the general Jewish custom of the time. Now, this question became much more prevalent in the end of the 19th century and particularly in the 20th century, so there is much more written on this subject. It's very extensive. I'll just be very brief and just say there are varying opinions. Some authorities strongly discourage women saying Kaddish at all, and they say there are many other ways for women to benefit the soul of the departed, and saying Kaddish is not the most important avenue to do that. Others say that in a private home they can say Kaddish. Others say that under bat mitzvah there's no problem. Others say that even adults over bat mitzvah can recite it in a shul, but as long as they're saying it together with men. And there are those that say that they can say it independently without men. For a ruling on this subject, I suggest you ask your local synagogue to see what their custom is. Thank you.